Hey guys, it's day 22 I think of filming. It's June the 7th. We're going to be talking about splitting wood today. The mosquitoes have been just terrible out in the woods, and it's really difficult to get my little guy out filming with me because of it. So today happens to be a rainy day, and the rain keeps the mosquitoes down, and so it's a good day to just come out and do a quick video for you guys. I've got two splitting axes here. They're both Fisker's axes. They're both pretty much identical, other than the length of the handle. Now, I prefer to have the longer handle, similar to my chopping axes. When you're doing heavier work, I think you get more momentum, just a better swing with a longer handle, so I like this here one better. I also have a third splitting axe somewhere. I couldn't find it for today's video, but it's a large, I don't know if they call it a maul, but it's got a much larger, heavier head on it and a long fiberglass handle. The thing's terrible to swing. That's why I ended up buying these Fisker splitting axes, because these heads on these are much lighter. What denotes a splitting axe over a chopping axe is this wedge shape right here that you can see on the axe head. That's to try to split, obviously to make the wood split apart when you swing this thing, as opposed to a chopping axe that you want to have bite into the wood would have a much thinner profile on the blade. So this here's my favorite splitting axe that I have. Because again, just the length of the handle seems really good for a full swing, and the lightness of the head. Now, the only time I ever use that big fiberglass one that I have is when I have a really large, stubborn piece of wood, and then sometimes I'll pull that out and try to use it. Another technique people can use is a wedge, where you drive a wedge in and then you use like the back of one of those big axes to try to drive your wedge down through. I don't typically do that, or I don't usually even have to do that. Most of my wood splits pretty easy with this here axe. Now, right now the wood is green, and that means that this wood was only cut in the last, couple months since we started filming back in April. So it is harder to get through this time of year. If I had, you can see the pile that I have here behind me is not very large. Okay, now maybe back up there again a little bit, bud, just so you get me in frame. If I had, a cord or two of large diameter wood to go and split, I may have just taken a lot of it and piled it to dry for the summer and then tried to split it in the fall when it's dry, because wood tends to split a lot easier when it's dried out and not green, and also when it's late in the year and cold out, it tends to split easier than right now in a hot summer. But anyways, for what little bit of wood that we have to split, I'm going to probably do all of this while it's green, and none of it's really all that big of diameter or very hard stuff to get through. And I needed...
My arms are tired. Biggle!
Okay. So yeah, we're going to split this little bit of wood because we need it for our ends. What I described before to you guys, when you're piling your wood, you need split wood for the ends. And over there you can see we have none yet on the end of that pile. So we need to get that built up so that we can continue that tier of wood. So back up a little, buddy, and I'll just split a little bit, okay? So, came over to you.
Yeah.
That one. This is hard to balance on. I don't have a very good block, but it's always best to have a block of wood underneath what you're cutting, just so your axe doesn't come down and hit anything in the dirt. There. So most of this stuff will split with a swing or two. Stuff that's stubborn, if it gets jammed in the block of wood or doesn't go through in one swing, I'll show you what I typically do to break it. It's just hard to get these stood up.
My arms are tired.